So the next part of really kind of getting deeper into the Facebook algorithm, once you understand the KPIs that you're working towards, you understand how to see profit and revenue, is then getting deeper into actually what is the algorithm and what's going on. This is a graphic which Facebook shared maybe 2014, 2015, I can't remember when, and hopefully a lot of people that are advertising on Facebook have seen this before. Why this is so important is when we came up with the BPM method models, it just perfectly tied into everything Facebook needs. And this is why it works so well. And I want you to understand and take that away. So the Facebook algorithm is based on three key parts, which are the advertiser bid, the estimated action rate, and the value that the user is experiencing through your advertising in the funnel and things like that. So the bid, it contains the information around the audience. It contains information around your bid. So we can talk about automatic bid, manual bid, and it's something we'll cover off later on as well. It also covers the ad set history and kind of what's happened in the campaign previously and your ads, for example. What objective you've got in place. So objective could be website conversion, traffic, reach, etc. And then what optimizations are in place as well. Then estimated action rate, EAR, is concerned with what Facebook sees as the likelihood of a user taking action based on what you have told Facebook that you want. So here's the thing, if you are, and this is something which I don't think people understand when it comes to stability, how the actual auction works. So if you optimize a website conversion campaign for purchase, but your ad set is not generating enough purchases, then the stability gets lost because the estimated action rate is saying, right, you've set this campaign up for website conversion, you're trying to get purchases, your purchase rate is extremely low, therefore you're not feeding the data Facebook needs, and also the way Facebook sees it is that your conversion in your funnel is poor. Reality might be that your ad set at the top of the funnel is generating good quality traffic, but on average it takes people 2 days to purchase, and maybe your retargeting traffic is generating all the sales. But that then gets hit with your top of funnel then gets hit, and you don't get the stability because you're not generating enough conversions. The other part of this is Facebook are looking downstream on your funnel. So estimated action rate is looking at the clicks, it's looking at your engagement on the landing page, how fast your landing page loads. It's then looking at your funnel metrics all the way through, and are people converting? So if, for example, your campaign is optimized for, I don't know, let's say add to carts. So you set up a website conversion campaign, you set up add to cart as the action that you want to generate, and you're generating lots and lots of add to carts. Facebook sees two things here. Number one, that the audience you're targeting and the ad you've created really work because you're generating lots of views to add to cart, and you're giving Facebook lots more data back on who your ideal customer is, and it creates this whole flywheel of optimization that goes on. That then helps you to bring more people in like that. Now you might argue, rightfully, that what use is it to drive people that are likely to add to cart because they're not purchasing? That's part of balancing out what your objective is from the ads you're running, and that's a big part of understanding the graduation framework and why graduation testing, which is how we test in the BPM method, works so well and how it undercuts the auction, and it actually reduces the amount of time and money you spend on testing, and why you then move that as part of your testing process into optimization and scaling. So that's estimated action rate. Then you've got the user value, which is essentially the user experience. So how relevant your ad is, and we can look at quality metrics there. Landing page speed, because we know if it takes too long to load, then people are going to leave. How your sales funnel is converting, and then kind of the experience of how that's related in terms of your metrics, the user history, how many times have they visited your site, your bounce rate. I can go into so much detail on this, but just know this. When Facebook look at your website, if you've installed the Pixel, Facebook can see pretty much everything that Google Analytics can see. So if you've looked at Google Analytics before, you can see so much. What browser type, what browser version, desktop, mobile, how many visits they've had. There's so many breakdowns where they're located, the IP provider. There's so much data that Google Analytics picks out. FYI, Facebook can also see that as well. So don't be surprised if Facebook are taking a lot of these into account when they're looking at how well you're building the user value. Put all those three things together, that gives you the total value in the auction. That is whether that kind of defines whether you're going to win the auction for that one user or not. Now you might look at this and say, well, one user is one user, I'm spending a lot, etc. But every auction you win, every auction you lose goes forward into the next auction, because if you are constantly losing auctions because your bid is too low, your conversion rates are too low, your site load's too slow, lots of people bounce, etc., over time your cost will go up to reach the same customers. And it's so important when it comes down to CPM, your cost per thousand impressions, to understand it's not just Facebook manipulating the auction, charging you more, Facebook doesn't like you, etc. It's not the case. In many cases, Facebook are trying to align your goals with the user's goal. So if the user's interested in your ad, and if the user buys your product, Facebook's happy because the user's happy, generally. If, for example, people click your ad and they hate it, they report your ad, they click through to your site and come back to Facebook, that's a negative signal. And that itself is a big negative, that if someone clicks from your ad into your website, Facebook is looking for that pixel to fire. So a lot of people delay the pixel fire because they want to take out bad traffic. But the problem with that is, how does Facebook know whether that click generated a view on your site? They wait for that pixel to load. How do they know how long that pixel takes to load? They look at the time between the click on Facebook or the tap if it's on mobile, and how long it takes for that pixel to fire. So if you're delaying that pixel by 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds because you don't want the bad quality traffic, then you're telling Facebook that my site is slow loading. You then end up with higher CPMs, lower quality users, etc., etc. What you can do is delay a pixel event fire, not the actual pixel itself, but the event fire. So for example, view content, lead, or anything else like that, that you can do as an advanced thing, and we'll cover that off in the pixel section. But if you're just doing it to try and manipulate the auction, it will actually backfire on you. So it's really important to understand the different aspects. Now, for me, one of the biggest things is estimated action rate, because it also comes down to what objective you set, how you optimize your campaigns to get the outcome that you want, and how you give Facebook enough positive data to build stability. So if, people say my results are not stable, often it's down to problems with the estimated action rates and or the user value. So user value, we talked about, is your ad relevant to the audience? How fast is your landing page loading? What's the landing page quality like? And these two things are the reason why, another reason why we go through the graduation testing process, which we'll see further on in the training, is because I want the best estimated action rate and I want the highest user value, so that when it comes to bidding, Facebook will automatically give me the best users in the auction at the lowest cost. Because if I, as an advertiser, am serving a great ad at the right time to the right user with the right funnel and everything's converting well, and I've got low bounce rate, high page load time, I'm going to get more and more users like that. Because this is what it comes down to. It's not Facebook trying to manipulate costs and trying to squeeze more money out of you. It's, are you actually delivering the best value to the customer, and therefore to Facebook's user as well. When it comes to the auction, Facebook actually put a value on each and every user. So when you're actually advertising on Facebook, depending on what you're selling, how much you're how you set up your campaigns, what kind of campaign types you've got, what kind of ad formats you're running, they all play a big impact on the type of person you can reach, and also what the value of that person is as well. So here's the thing. Let's say, for example, your CPM, your cost per thousand impressions, is $5. That means it costs you $5 to reach 1,000 impressions, not 1,000 people, but for your ad to be seen in the newsfeed, in stories, or whatever the format is, 1,000 times. So that's $0.005 for each individual ad to be shown. But the thing is, not all users are created equal. I'll give you an example. I spoke to the auction team about this, and they gave a real good kind of description of this. Let's say that person A, let's call him John Smith, for example. Whenever John is on Facebook, he likes to click a lot of ads. He's a very clicky person. He doesn't generally buy on Facebook. He's 55, a lot of spare time on his hand, but he just likes to click through ads. His cost per thousand or cost per individual impression is going to be a lot lower because he's a highly engaged person. He clicks a lot, but because he's a very clicky user, he's not very likely to purchase. So when people optimize for purchase, he doesn't really come up because Facebook know that he clicks a lot, but he doesn't purchase. If you're going for a link clicks campaign, not a website conversion purchase, but you're going after someone who, link clicks campaign, this guy, John Smith, is going to come up in your audience because what you're telling Facebook is, I want people that are likely to click my link and click into my site. So actually, John's a click happy person, so he will come up in your audience. He probably won't buy. Like, he doesn't buy online. He just likes to click ads. He's a curious fella. So that's not going to give you value as an advertiser. Now let's take John Doe, for example. John Doe doesn't really click that many ads, but he buys. Not just on Facebook, through Facebook ads, but he's an online buyer. There's two things about this. Number one, Facebook can track who's clicking and buying from Facebook, obviously through the pixel. Facebook can also track people that are not necessarily clicking ads, but are also buying online. How do they know this? Again, through the Facebook pixel. So if you think about all the hundreds of thousands and millions of websites out there that have the Facebook tracking pixel installed, Facebook are collecting all this data up. So even if someone never clicks an ad, they know that this person is a buyer. They bought 2 weeks ago, they bought shoes, they bought, deodorant online, whatever that kind of comes up in their profile. So now, when you're bidding for John Doe, Facebook look at that user and say, right, he's a purchaser, he just bought 2 weeks ago, he buys a lot online, he likes to buy shoes, he's, on average he spends this much, over the last 6 months he spent this much. So when you're optimizing and you're trying to optimize for people that buy, this person is likely to be a lot more expensive to reach, and also the competition is higher, but also he's more likely to convert higher. So his conversion rate will also be higher than, let's say, the other fellow as well. So the cost that you pay in the auction is often reflective of the value to you, the optimizations that you've put in play. So it's not as simple as saying your only goal is to get the lowest CPM possible, because sometimes the high value customers actually cost more to reach, but if they're likely to spend more, convert higher, they're also going to be a lot more profitable as well. And that's why it's really important to set your objectives right when it comes to running your kind of prospecting and scaling. And this is something else which we cover off in our test and optimize process, that finding the right pixel event to optimize for, for some cases it might be registration because you want people to register for a webinar. But, even then we've found, for example, if you have a webinar funnel and people register, then they turn up, then they watch the webinar, then they add to cart, then they purchase, going after purchasers can still be more profitable because it's the audience type. So you're telling Facebook, I want people that are in that kind of buying mode, that bought recently, that Facebook identifies purchasers. Because again, you could just end up getting people that are likely to turn up to a webinar, that like to watch material but never buy. So it's really important to get that right as well. And ultimately, what really came out of the BPM method is creating the user's value first is how you create your value. So that comes down to really understanding your messaging, your offer, your avatar, your creatives, your copy into your landing page, converting them well, using persuasion techniques, etc., etc. Because when you've got all of that right, you end up with lower costs, you get better quality customers that spend more. And that creates a flywheel of building that into your pixel, your ad account, etc. So that over time, Facebook knows who your ideal user is and then how to keep finding more people like that. And this is really what it comes down to, is you build the value up for your user, you get them out of Facebook to take the action to get into your sales funnel. Then it comes down to your kind of user of what kind of signals are you sending back from the user. So high click-through rates, low X out rate. So people clicking, I don't want to hear from this advertiser, I don't want to see this ad, for example. The targeting relevance, ad quality, landing page experience, sales funnel, that all comes into it. And that's why the BPM method is being built on these principles. Rather than telling you to go into your ad account, fire up 50 ad sets with 50 creatives and just throw it at the wall and see what happens, we use a structured approach because this brings us consistency and scale in a way that so many people can't achieve through Facebook. So I hope that you're wondering how you maximize the user experience, because that's the next part of this training, to show you exactly how we set ourselves up.